Thank you very much. And it's such a privilege to be here with you today. And of course, share some of my reflections on this very complex topic of sustainability. And of course, it cannot be done in only 10 minutes, but I'll do my best to share my view. There are good news and there are bad news. The good news are that climate is on the top of the agenda of many people, not only the public generally, but also head of states, business leaders, companies, politicians, investors. There is this sense of urgency that now is the time to really make the change. It is, for instance, demonstrated by the world's largest asset management company, BlackRock, who in January said that climate risk is investment risk. No issue ranks higher than climate change on our clients' list of priorities. And these are quite strong words. They are asking companies like ours to disclose a plan for how our business models will be compatible with a net zero economy. The US Fed Stability Report, for the first time ever, notes that climate change is material risk. And these are just two examples out of many. The bad news are that we stand in front of a huge challenge, and we are still quite far from having it solved. Researchers, among others, Stanford University and the Global Carbon Project, examined the progress that we have made in cutting fossil CO2 emissions since the Paris Agreement was adopted in 2015. Their results show, unfortunately, a clear need for far greater ambition ahead of the UN Climate Summit in Glasgow in November this year. The annual cuts of CO2 are only 10% of the 1 to 2 billion tons of CO2 that are needed globally every year to tackle climate change. And while emissions decreased in 64 countries, they actually increased in 150. So with this as a backdrop, I will share a few reflections on what we see ahead of us at Stora Enso and how we believe that companies can contribute to a more sustainable world. Yes, we all know that global trends are changing the world, how the world develops. Climate change is threatening our environment while also having big socioeconomic implications. Biodiversity loss is not only, of course, a loss of a lot of animals and plants from our ecosystems, but is also threatening the world's food production. And the global population is estimated to reach 9 billion by 2050. And this leads, of course, to an ever greater resource shortage. So these megatrends, they illustrate the challenges that society has coming. Many of us also see, of course, that this brings a lot of new business opportunities. Carbon neutrality can create 6,000 billion euro market for smart green solutions by 2050. 70% of consumers, they state that they have purchased an environmentally friendly product, even if it was more expensive. Retail and e-commerce sales are projected to increase to over 4,000 billion US dollars, making up to 15% of retail spending. Imagine if all this can be done with a low carbon footprint. So over the years, we have seen changes and expectations also towards companies. Previously, large international companies were seen a little bit as the ones creating all the problems, taking advantage of poor labor conditions, polluting rivers, and so on. Today, companies are seen as potential solution providers. And it is clear expectation from many of the stakeholders out there, from the UN, for instance, that we as companies, we innovate to deliver on the sustainable development goals. This has, of course, implications on us representing different companies. We can no longer make sure that we just have order in our own house. We need to take responsibility of the whole ecosystem that we are part of and collaborate with startups, for instance, to help scale new models and business opportunities. It demands a much broader perspective on societal changes, such as unfairness, inequality, and polarization, and to use our company muscles to make sustainable changes in the society today. So as I started with, the push for companies to act is today becoming very strong. And from the investor side, from the financial institutions, in a new way, they have become the new NGOs, only much more forceful and with resources that can really make shifts. What I see now in Stora Enso, and what are we doing to take the next steps? Well, first of all, we need to have our basics in place. We cannot excel in sustainability if we don't have order in our own house. In our case, this means, for example, working in a transparent manner towards science-based targets for our operations and partners, ensuring that our wood comes from sustainable sources and that we have solid human rights program in place. And this is, of course, a constant improvement journey that never stops. Our best possibility to contribute to a more sustainable world is through our products. Fossil-free raw materials, as well as our efforts in sustainable forestry and circular economy, they are visible in the products that we have today that replace fossil-based ones. Our promise to the world is that everything that's made with fossil-based materials today can be made from a tree tomorrow. And this is also the foundation of our innovation agenda. So we think about circularity already in the very first phase of our product development. And our pledge and our promise helps our people to think outside of our existing business today. We look into how to turn waste into something useful. And we expand our scope beyond only the products and design for full low carbon solutions through the full chain and end of life of our products. So this is the way we see we can develop both new business models and service offerings to the society. So now let me share a few tangible examples of what I think you all can relate to. Behind me, you can see our future digital or our future wooden building office in Helsinki. It will be based totally on wood materials and have 70% lower carbon footprint than conventional construction. And in the picture here, you see Google's new office in London and what that will look like. It is made from wood from Stora Enso, a renewable choice from trees that grow back, which is not in the case with many of the finite materials we use in construction today, such as steel and concrete. Other advantages among many are quicker and less noisy building process, that the building stores CO2 through its lifetime. And studies also show that people's wellness is increasing when working and living in wooden buildings. And it has a significantly lower carbon footprint compared to traditional construction. Another example is with biocomposites, where we gradually can replace plastics in everyday products, such as hangers or kitchen cutlery. And we collaborate with IKEA and H&M in a project called Tree to Textile, where we aim to contribute to a more sustainable value chain for wood fiber-based textiles. And this is a huge challenge, how we can make the retail industry much more sustainable. So how can we, companies in the Nordics and all over the world, drive change for sustainability? Well, I think it's important that we look beyond the borders of our own companies and considers what the world actually needs. We need to drive and move away from only responding to actually shaping the agenda. And here cooperation is key. It was mentioned before. No company can solve it all alone. We have to cooperate in the value chain. And we need to reassess the systems, the setups, the infrastructure in which we operate. And in many times also disrupt this to create new ones where we see a need for change. And we should not only focus our innovation on what we can do, but instead put our resources at work where they really make a difference. So here it's also about key prioritization. Where can we make the largest shifts? Keep our eyes on the big picture, like having science-based targets that are transparent so we can track and trace progress. So we not only measure ourselves on our own operational reductions and improvements, but actually look at the whole chain. And of course, invite to partnerships and share openly. And this is challenging, having a lot of perhaps company secrets or wanting to protect and gain. But I do believe that we can only win this together. I recently saw Coke going out with the very first generation prototype of a bottle that's made out of fiber. And their aim is that it should be as easy to recycle as paper. So they are far from actually having succeeded, but they announce it because they want to learn along the way and work with others. So multi-stakeholder coalitions and partnerships are the way forward. So to conclude, it is clear that the world needs a new approach to materials and consumption. Business needs to step up to this challenge of operating within the planetary boundaries and ensure that we have an inclusive and sustainable growth. And this is the right thing to do, but it also represents the best opportunity to ensure the relevance of business and individual companies in the future. So the task for us as companies, as leaders, is to use this quest as a lens for product innovation and business model transformation. Thank you very much.